Aloha, I am June Jones of the Houston Roughnecks, and this is the XFL Show.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of October 10th, 2021. This is for the love of football. This is the road to 2023, and this is the XFL Show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
The XFL broke the internet this week. Kind of. And our nifty roadmap has us feeling prepared for our big trip to kickoff in just over a year. This is episode 191, and we must consult the calendar more and more each and every day on the road to 2023, Bryant. I find myself even considering portraiting a monitor here in the office just to look at the calendar you made to make it look even niftier and cleaner. It's a work of art. I've been looking at it all week, getting ready for the show.
You haven't made it your screen background on your phone yet?
No. My wife would not allow that, or not dig it as much as I want to.
It's been helpful. It's been an exciting week, I would say, for XFL fans, at least with some anticipation. But yeah, the roadmap's there. I think a lot of people found it helpful, intriguing, interesting to kind of gauge your expectations as we leave. I love how we gauged our expectations, Alan, and then all of a sudden Dany Garcia breaks the internet too. We'll get into that, but that's just Everyone calm down. Nothing's really exciting to report. Hey, we're going to an ownership meeting. It's great.
Kind of expected it, at the same time, but we appreciate the love and the interest people showed to the roadmap and got some good feedback. We're going to actually pick out one really interesting one that someone texted coming up, but let's tell you how to interact with us if you're new to the show or if you forgot. 724-565-4XFL is the XFL fan line for you to call or text anytime. And of course, at XFL Show on social media, if you want to reach out that way. We are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. You could go to prettyeasypodcasts.com right now. And when you go there to start your own podcast. If you are a budding podcaster or someone who just thinks, I need a little bit of a push or a little bit of help to get my show that I want to do started, that's where you go. Pretty Easy Podcast. They handle it all for you. You go there, you hit the contact section, and you say, hey, I want to do a podcast. Help me out. And they'll give you affordable rates, a personal producer, everything you need to get your podcast sounding great and getting you into the podcasting mode where you feel good about your show and you're not worried about all this stuff you have no clue about, like audio editing and copywriting is going to be on you. We write our copy, but then we have to read it sometimes and we totally have to do like 9 takes. But that's on me and Bryant, not on Pretty Easy Podcast, Bryant.
No, they make podcasting pretty easy. Also, if you think about it, they also kind of help you with other things that are not just podcast related. Like if let's say you have a microphone, but you don't have a stand, they're like, well, what do you have? Like, I have another microphone. I have a screw and I have a rubber band and a glue stick. Can you help me out? And they'll be like, there you go. Square peg, round hole. Let's rock. That's what Pretty Easy Podcast does.
I mean, these dudes are like MacGyvers with podcasting too. So yeah, they got you covered.
Because a super light $10 arm is just sometimes very impossible for somebody to like bring around themselves when they're traveling around the country to make life just a little bit easy. Pretty easy.
Well, you really have to, you really traveling though too. That's a whole other thing. 50-pound bags are like impossible.
Super light.
But 50-pound bags are like impossible to actually achieve, especially in the colder months as we approach. And these airlines, Brian, think, oh yeah, these people will actually get under 50 pounds with their bag, and then they charge you. It's all a scam. But I'll get into that when I next week when I'm elsewhere for the show. Or no, where am I going to be next week?
You're going to be there.
I don't know.
You are going to be there.
The seat. Will I be? You know my calendar better than I do because I've only been looking at your calendar for the XFL this week, so I don't even know where I'll be. I just know where the XFL needs to be.
Well, I'll tell you where you need to be. You keep us on track here. I'll keep you on track the other. I don't know how many hours in a week, but minus 1 hour, I'll keep you on track the rest of the time.
Sounds good. All right, well, I'll get us back on track here. Let's dink and dunk real quick. Stemming from last week's show, the roadmap, we laid it all out. All those markers you need to hit to successfully kick off an XFL season, and we had a lot of feedback, but here's one really interesting one I wanted to check out on the show this week, Bryant, from Jonas, texting the XFL
His
Fan
name is
Line.
Jonas.
And he listened to the show and said, I love your roadmap, but I would add one more major stop. XFL Signing Day, a televised event where The Rock signs the top 8 players to the league, similar to the quarterbacks in 2020. I love that idea. Could you imagine that would be a perfect televised event, a get to know the league type of event, glitz glamour with The Rock, all sorts of feel good moments, and really an introduction to the faces of the league. I like that idea.
I did. I don't think it belongs on the calendar that I presented because these are events that happened during the road to 2020. It, in theory, kind of happened when it was Alan, you and I were on our way to Starbucks, on our way to Connecticut headquarters with all the corporate people when we found out the quarterbacks that were signed and where they were going. So it would have been maybe the day before would have been like a little like, hey, we're going to do this. Something kind of cool. But either way, I'm down for something like that. Maybe put some hats out there, right? Like which hat are they going to grab? The LA hat?
That would be awesome too. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Something like that would be great.
Yeah, I like it. I'd like, high school signing. But, this actually, did happen off camera. So Jonas is kind of correct in that.
Well, that was the day of the draft. I could add it to the day of the draft because it was the same day as the draft. And I guess that's where it wasn't really a moment for the XFL leading up to 2020.
No, but definitely a good idea, and I'm all about it. And that's good producing right there, Jonas. Maybe they could use you at Pretty Easy Podcast and could be producing up some shows. So that's a hell of an idea. I like it, but appreciate that and appreciate everybody else who said they're going to be checking their calendars now the rest of the road to 2023. Bryant, what's the finger up for? What happened?
Oh no, I was just saying we had a guy, we had a fan, Kyle, on YouTube just say, hey guys, what a great episode. I loved it. Now I got fixed dates to compare how kickoff to 2023 is going. Amazing.
Exactly. That's exactly what we were going for last week. So you put your finger up though like that, in the middle of the show, and I'm thinking like Dany Garcia just Instagram something that we need to.
Well, we wouldn't be able to see it because my feed wouldn't refresh. So,
all right. Well, okay. So we are set with our calendar. I'm gonna be consulting it the rest of the show. Dany Garcia broke the internet. She's not breaking it right now though, right? We don't have. We're just going to talk about how she broke it earlier this week.
Considering the time that it is, she's not breaking the internet right now.
That would be insane. yeah, right now. I don't want to offend the viewers and listeners and let them know what time we're actually recording this week. But hey,
good crisp
get it done when you can. And that's that's because we do have the help from Pretty Easy Podcast. Morning, day, night, anytime, baby. Here we go. Let's get to this week's cover 2. So Dany Garcia broke the internet, broke Instagram, and Facebook broke along with that, and also WhatsApp, and then consequently the internet, Bryant, because of XFL updates from the sky. Thanks a lot, Dany Garcia. No, I mean that like legitimately. Thank you. I love that all the Facebook stuff went down because I don't use any of it. You know me, Bryant, but I thought it was hilarious. But also, Dany Garcia tweeted out a picture of The Rock going to or coming from an XFL owners update meeting. I don't know where they were headed, which direction. I think it was to the update meeting. Either way, it timed out where that was posted shortly before all the craziness this past week of Facebook and Instagram going down.
Yeah, do you think there was actually more news slated in her story, but she just couldn't post it because she broke Instagram with that first one?
So you think that's a good conspiracy theory? So when we go to the draft, whenever that happens, we'll get the tea that, oh yeah, actually that week we were going to announce team names and uniforms, but Facebook and Instagram broke, so we couldn't. We had to reconfigure our roadmap. No, I don't think that's what was going on at all. Actually, I have some questions coming from this. So first off, we'll get to that actually in a second, the owners' meetings and what was planned. But what are the millions and millions of the Rock's fans think when they see these XFL posts by him or Dany Garcia tagging him? And I'm talking about the millions of fans who either have no clue what the XFL is or really have a vague idea of what the Rock's involvement in with the XFL is. Like these people who follow the Rock, and there are millions and millions of them, who see the XFL being promoted that aren't following it like you or I, or even just the casual football fans. What are they thinking when they see that?
So
honestly,
just some live statistics: 3,881,699 likes on that post that The Rock put on his story. I'm going to say about 10,000 people know what exactly he's talking about when he posts that, of the people who like this. I mean, it's such a
10?
minuscule. I mean, maybe a little bit more, but I think I'm being facetious. But do you think people Googled it? No. Do you think people looked it up? Probably not. Look, we're all joking here because we all,
small, for sure.
But nobody, especially because Instagram and Facebook went down right after this happened, like that completely derailed any momentum they had for that. You know what I mean? But I mean, if you compare these, kind of like the Rock's always around that range, not more nor less. So he's giving them the same kind of exposure as he would anyone else. Do the fans actually care though? I don't know. Hopefully they do. I think they're banking on that they will, if it's something that the Rock's doing.
Yeah, and he hasn't really explained too much about it, his involvement or what the XFL is yet. So the casual fans aren't even in the loop yet. He's not hooking them. He's exposing them to logos and the acronym, and that it's football maybe, but it's still, if you, in today's day and age, you talk about, reach and exposure and all that with a social media post. We're not even at the tip of the iceberg for what The Rock can do for the XFL as a brand yet. But that post got me thinking about that. And also, yeah, you're right. When they're scrolling right past it. They see it and say, huh? And then especially when Instagram goes down, it's totally out of the mind instantly. So we'll have to see what more posts come up now that the ownership had their owners update meeting or whatever we're calling it. Let's predict what the next step is. What went down at this update for the owners, and what do you think their next steps are on the roadmap? I mean, we have one here that we can consult, but we don't know what they're going by. What do you think? What's your guess?
Yeah, I was just going through some of the comments, and it's kind of hilarious how most of them are not at all XFL related. It's just like, hey, you go on, Rock. Anyway, so the XFL, we're in part 2 now. Is that what we're doing now? XFL owners, what is this meeting? I mean, what do they call it? An ownership update?
Yeah, ownership update is what you saw if you zoomed in on Dany Garcia's picture of the Rock in the private jet. He had a big pamphlet or whatever you call it, notebook. Of a deck
is what you call them in the corporate people world.
Is that a corporate people term?
Yes.
His deck said the cover page.
Watch it now. Long out.
The Rock's deck. The Rock's deck.
I thought it would be a little bit bigger. Honestly, at this point, but whatever.
It's just an ownership update meeting, so I don't think it'll be that large. It was probably smaller than some of the other meetings, but it was an ownership update.
I would think that the Rock's deck is bigger than anyone else's, and there's probably more information that he has to get. But
I hope there's a lot of information being shared at these meetings. Hopefully,
you got to think. Okay, there's two folds to this, right? An ownership update. Does that mean that Dany Garcia and the Rock and Redbird Capital, ownership, did they actually just say give marching orders and then kind of took a step back?
No.
Okay, why do you say that? It was very right official.
No, because I mean when I posed the question on the outline, and then I hear you coming back at me with this, and then it just like kind of hits me right in the skull as we just started this segment. I have a bad feeling about ownership update. That makes me feel like the CFL stuff fell through, and this was like the first time maybe any of them got together and talked about the XFL at all formally since then, and that's been a while. And while it sounds like Dany Garcia from her post that there was a lot of hours put into these meetings, I feel like they like legitimately over the last, what has it been now since we last talked to Dave Naylor and the CFL stuff fell through? Is that 2 months ago? 3 months ago?
Like that, 2.5. When did the XFL season start? I mean, the CFL season start. It was when did the season start? August 5th.
August.
So it was about 2 weeks before that or so. So about end of July.
This just like makes me think that they legitimately have been quiet to even each other on formal XFL planning discussions.
Yeah, but be careful with that, because now you're saying that, hey, yeah, they've been quiet with each other, but maybe that's because there was just it was up to Jeffrey Pollock to go and do some things. It was up to other people that they've hired to go and do some things.
So legwork was being done in the meantime, you think?
That's what I'm saying. When you say ownership update, to me, it's, hey, go do these things and then come back to us when there's an update. And I don't think Dany Garcia, and it's not. Do you think Dany Garcia is on the negotiating table with ESPN or something like that, or with whoever coming up with the football or the cities? Like, I don't think, you might have The Rock give a call, right? He'd be like, hey, Rock, can you give Miami a call? We want to have a team there, but you're from there. You think you're not from there, but you kind of, you know what I mean? Like, come on, just go and he's like, okay, The Rock does a call, but he's not doing the negotiating. No. Like, that's not what he does.
No, yeah, and they're bringing in people who did that. Remember from the NFL contracts with TV and media rights, and So you're right. So you're saying that there were probably marching orders given after the CFL discussions fell through, and then these update meetings were reports and maybe planning for next steps.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It was just more of a hey, because you can't tell me that since the middle of July, end of July, that they haven't talked since then, and what they want done.
At least with formal meetings, because I mean, pretty much Dany Garcia has done a good job of being transparent and letting fans know when formal discussions are happening with the XFL. Pretty much.
Well, I mean, even when she's been transparent here and there, but is it always? Is it, maybe maybe this is the fourth ownership update, but she's only given us one. We don't know that. Like that, those are assumptions that we're making. But word is on the streets, there's probably going to be a lot of changes anyway. So, there's marching orders out there. Go figure it out. Come back, and who knows? But maybe
that stemming back to Jeffrey Pollock, who his been there since the bankruptcy and has stuck through it the whole way through, and has done interviews and told people in the media that the XFL will see some changes, and he's kind of been vague with it. Some will stay the same, some will change. So what changes? I'm sure those have been hammered home, and I feel like we're going to see something soon. So my prediction is we're going to get an announcement on a change from what we saw in 2020 next. I think we're going to be hearing about something different for the XFL than we got in 2020.
So let me ask you this question then, Alan. This might be opening up a whole can of worms. In 2020, when the teams were announced, right? The 8 teams were announced and what cities they were playing in. We didn't call it a change from 2001.
No.
Right? We didn't call it. Now, are these changes from 2020 or are these the XFL 2023?
I would say it's a change. I think this is the same league. They bought the league. They bought the league from 2020.
Vince McMahon brought the same league back from 2001.
But no. But you didn't. It's totally different ownership and rule book and everything.
So this is totally different ownership too.
But they still have the same president. They still have all the
everything. The same owner. The same.
not the same owner. So it's a new ownership. But I don't. To me, it feels like what we're getting in 2023 will be. I mean, it will be a makeover of 2020, sure, but still, to me, it will be the 2020 XFL remade in the image of the new owners. But also, I think there will be a base from 2020 in 2023. Like there has to be, because I don't think it would be wise. I would hope not, because there's so much good from
Look,
2020
here,
to keep.
I think you're misconstruing. Did I say that right? Misconstruing what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Are we considering these changes from 2020, or are we taking it as this is what it's going to be for 2023? We're putting 2020 behind us. We're going to take with some of those ideas, but this is not a change. This is a new concept, a new idea. So when they say, "Hey, we're going to go back to regular kickoffs," is that because there's going to be like give it a change, give it a chance? Excuse me, give it a chance, because this isn't 2020 anymore. It's 2023.
They did that. Oh my goodness. I mean, on this very show, you'll see a lot of complaining and a very upset podcaster. But no, that would be a big change. That would be a change. It would not be this is what 2023's XFL looks like. That would be a change. Taking what you saw in 2020 that you actually liked, that was consensus, I thought, that football people all loved the kickoff, and changing it, that's a change. Something new for 2023 would be, I don't know, adding a team, adding a city. That is adding the number of teams. That's a change. That's a new, not a change.
What if NBC is like, look, we're going to be your television partner, but you got to get us in the top markets across the country. So you got to bring in Chicago. You got to bring in, whatever your other top TV, San Francisco.
I'm for it.
You got to bring in these big TV markets, right? Is that a change? Or is that a new strategy for 2023? Because what was the strategy when it came to cities? It was big football cities with fan bases, right? Basically, other than like LA, probably New York. Like those
not so much TV as a concern as it was just making sure that team would have fans.
Exactly. So is that a change, or is that a new strategy for 2023?
That one's more gray. That one's in the gray area. Yeah, so that one's in the gray area. I would say I would lean towards that as a change of strategy from 2020, but it depends how similar it is. Are there 8 teams and you're moving cities? Are there more teams? If it's more teams, I would say that's just new, the new and improved, instead of taking 2020 and poo-pooing what they did with that. There's a difference between a change and a poo-poo.
Well, now, if you really think about it, look, we're gonna do this now. I think every show is look at our roadmap to kick off, and where were we at this moment in time in 2018, and we weren't really getting any of these types of announcements, these types of things, right? You had Oliver, like every once in a while, going out there and maybe having an interview, a spot interview with whoever here and there, giving out the same kind of. Dany Garcia is doing the same thing, so she's using her phone and a story. That's it. That's what Dany Garcia is doing. It's basically what Oliver Luck did when he did the rounds leading up to.
With much less less buzzwords, less corporate messaging. There was a plan and there was phrasing that Oliver Luck would use and that you could tell was, what the league was going to sell. Dany Garcia is much more winging it. It's much, I think it feels, they both felt very honest. Oliver Luck was honest, but Dany Garcia is not as, you could tell it's her speaking from just her heart, and really not as knowledgeable of the exact corporate messaging of what the XFL is going to be as Oliver Luck was at this point on the road to 2020. That's a difference for sure.
Yeah. So we're really in the same boat, in the same place the XFL was in 2020. I'm sorry, it was 2018.
Sans a commissioner.
But really we need confirmation of a kickoff date, and we need teams. We don't have either one of those. That's next. I would think that's next. That's what's on the roadmap here. And that didn't happen until the beginning of December.
I think it's going to be a big change.
Let's be
And they're
real.
going to
The way they
say,
did,
yep.
you were there for the announcement of the cities. It wasn't that great. It wasn't that grandiose. You had a bunch of
No,
people from these
it was
cities that we
fun.
had no idea who they were.
Yeah.
They didn't really do anything for the city. They
It
had
was a
some
corporate
cool
event.
intro vids. That was about it. But it was nothing that was like, hey, this is what we want to do. So
Yeah.
I expect that to fully change. And I think we can fully expect everything to change when it comes to announcements and how they're made when it comes to 2023.
I think my prediction is they're going to first just announce a big change. The ball, it's going to be completely white with black laces so wide receivers could identify it in the air really easily. No, it would be the opposite way. Black with white laces.
Like those like mysterious like messages when somebody finds like an In-N-Out burger in the middle of Manhattan that's completely pristine? Like, why is there an In-N-Out burger here? Like, do you think they're just going to put like an XFL ball in the middle of like Chicago, right underneath the bean, and just leave it there, take a picture, and be like, what's a subtle message that's going on here? What the heck's going on?
This not so subtle message right now. That I would hope if they're going for subtle, that's not what they think is subtle. But yeah, I would love it. I would love the mysterious.
Alan, you're the one traveling
too.
across country. You should be placing balls in random cities across the country, just taking pictures and walking away.
I'm not trying to toy with people and mess with them because
Can we put one in every one of the cities except St. Louis?
As XFL fans, we're all vulnerable right now. I don't want to tug at people's heartstrings and toy with people like that. That would be cruel. That's something you would do, and that's why people should be thankful I'm the one traveling. It's kind of like that letter.
Right, it's kind of like that
Brian
letter
would be
from
screwing
that one,
with you all.
It's kind of like that letter from that one player group. I forget what their name was. Where you just kind of put out a message, and if you put out enough messages, the league's going to have to deny it at some point. So, and come out with their own. A lot of buzz.
The fake union. You mean?
Yeah.
The led by the Seattle Dragons running back.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. How it feels like decades ago, that whole issue. That was hilarious. All right. Well, what do you say we consult? We consult the calendar. Last week, we identified the markers. This week, we're going to kind of critique the markers and where we stand. Measure up to the markers, if you will, in this week's Hot Read. All right, Bryant, last week we really danced around giving our opinion too much as we introduced the roadmap and went over all the markers to hit to 2023. But this week, you and I can measure up a little bit, give some opinion, and attack this calendar and have some fun. So what do you say? Let's go at it first. The first one, we already kind of touched upon it today. The commissioner announced on June 6, 2018, leading up to 2020, we would need a commissioner currently, already by now. If we're kicking off in February of 2023 or April, it doesn't matter. By now, we should have already had a person in that position. Are you upset about the fact that we don't?
I'm not upset about it. I think I mentioned it last week. Hey, Oliver Lick came in to fix football, the game of football, not the operations of football. And the XFL did a pretty damn good job of fixing football. And so I don't think they're too concerned with having to do that. And so I think it is okay to not have this person in place at this moment in time.
Another reason why 2023 is still a part of, 2020. Like, they're not totally two different things, because it's I just cannot fathom them messing with the work Oliver Luck and his team did in that regard, Brian. As you said, fixing football. The toughest part of kicking off in 2020 was reimagining the game, coming up with new rules, and really dedicating the build-up to that. That is not what 2023's build-up is going to be all about. It's all about, I think, more this marketing and the selling of the league and making it, bankable. The game that really they came up with, Oliver Luck in charge of all that, and then football operations. I think that work that was done, they don't have to do it. So that's why we shouldn't feel terrible about not having a commissioner, because that was his role, as you said. The job is basically already done. So right now, someone like Jeffrey Pollack, I think, is able to do a lot of the leg work that I don't know how much of what Oliver Luck was doing he's doing currently, but having a person in charge as a president or head of the league in that business type role is much more important at this point.
Which they already have in Jeffrey Pollock, like you mentioned. I think there's going to be, I think the person who they pick to be in charge of the football aspect of the league probably has his hands full with scouting, probably more than anything, leading in to kick off. So maybe you're looking at another partnership. Who knows what you're going to do with Optimum Scouting, if they're going to come back, Eric Galco, who knows? They did a pretty good job at finding talent, but not to take anything away from anyone. You did have an advantage because you had the AAF the year before, kind of giving these players some talent in some places. A lot of these players that you're going to have for 2023, they're not going to be playing football. They might not be playing football right now, and they're not going to be playing football again for kickoff. So I think that's the role that person's going to have. And, is that necessary right now? It's probably really not necessary until the end of the regular season in the NFL for 2023.
So not hitting that marker yet. It's all right. That's fine. We could blow by that
I'm okay
that mile
with
marker.
It. Okay.
But eventually you want that person. How far? Do you have a deadline?
I think once you have cities established and when you're going to kick off, it becomes about who's going to. Once you've established the where you're playing and when you're playing, then you can establish who's going to be playing, and that's when I think you're going to need that person coming in.
So you don't think the time frame even really matters more than just the other boxes being checked before it? Does that person need a full year in the position before kickoff?
Look, unless you're changing the rule book, I mean, there's a lot of ifs with this, right? Like if you're going to change the rule book, you'd be like, hey, we want to change the rules from 2020 because we really don't like them, then you better bring that person in now, because that's going to take time. We've seen that. It takes time. Not all the XFL rules were perfect. There was a lot of confusion. Referees didn't know what was going on sometimes. I remember they blew down a 2-point conversion because they're from college and they don't have those run backs on 2-point conversions, but in the XFL they do. So, it's things that you remember, that snafu. The clock was never really always on. I was a clock stickler. So if you're going to change a lot of those types of rules, then you gotta change when you bring this person in.
I'll say the longer they wait, the better I feel about the rule book being intact. So there we go. That I'm rooting for
good call.
The commissioner or chief football officer person to be brought on as late as possible.
I would think that at some point there will be an interview with either Jeffrey Pollock, Dany Garcia, or maybe even The Rock. Probably not The Rock. And be like, you still have not hired a commissioner / chief football officer. What do you see that role being, and why is that person hired? I think understanding what that role is supposed to be with some more specifics. Maybe I should go on my LinkedIn page and see if it's on there. Is what I think.
I'm just interested to see. I'm interested to see what they when they get asked that question, what the corporate speak will be, or how they will phrase that. If it's sugar coated or if it's honest.
Not yet, fam. Not yet.
Yeah, not yet, fam. Or will it be, we want someone who is able to cultivate the game of football and protect the integrity of the game? And I don't want to hear any of that. I want to hear, we need someone who can scout. Something. I want to hear honesty. All right, next mile marker here. Kickoff date made official and XFL cities announced on December 5th, 2018. A fun gathering for the media. Not the biggest event for fans, Bryant, but that happened December 5th, 2018, before kickoff in 2020. So by December of this year, do we need to have this event in some form or fashion, or maybe by February if you're talking about an April kickoff in 2023?
I think dates in all these scenarios are going to be arbitrary, right? Like, does December 15th really matter? Right? Like, what happens on December 16th once you announce the teams on December 15th? Like, that's the question you should be asking yourself when it comes to these roadmaps. What happened on December 6th after all those teams were announced on December 5th? Nothing. Not one thing happened with those teams. Seriously, nothing happened, right? Until you get further down the line when your first team president was hired, really nothing happened. So do I want this to happen? Yes, I absolutely want this to happen soon. I want to know. You want to get those fan bases riled up. But if you're going to do it in the middle of December when the NFL is rolling and you're not even going to be on the ticket taker at the bottom little ticker, I think that's when you kind of rethink about when exactly you want to go with this.
That's a tough call. The announcement of your kickoff dates and all of that. I want to see it made more of an event. So if you have to wait until after all the major football news is dying down after the Super Bowl, I wouldn't even be upset at that, Bryant. If you are announcing the kickoff of your league exactly a year from kickoff or just under a year, I think that's fine. They were kind of a ways away from announcing the kickoff in the cities prior to the kickoff in 2020. I mean, they could have waited a little bit more. Maybe you're right, and made it more of an event and of a made waves in the news cycle with announcing the cities and the kickoff date.
Yeah, exactly. Do you do them one at a time? There could have been a lot of things happening. I think establishing those teams, if you're going to do establishing personnel within those are more important factors. And I'd gladly wait until February, March even. If you tell me, hey, we're having a team in LA, here's the owner, here's the president, here's this, here's that, here's where we're playing. If you had that information when you tell me where you're playing, I think I like that way more than, hey, here's where we're playing. And we're not going to know any of these positions for another year.
We're very patient people, and I think we're patient on that one too. Next one is Jeffrey Pollock announced as the XFL president in January of 2019. He's still there, so we don't really have to get into that one. February 10th, though, shortly after that, just about a year before kickoff, Bob Stoops was announced as the first XFL head coach. 1 full year of bringing in, I don't know about bringing in all the coaches in one at a time like they did. I'd like if they were all hired or at least announced at once, preferably at around that time, 1 year out. Giving them a calendar year to prepare for a season would make me feel good as a football fan.
I think so. The competitive advantage would be there, I think. Well, if you really think about it, though, the team that went 5-0 was the last one to get their coach hired last. So.
Yeah, not a lot of, we don't bring that up enough, probably. That's true. June Jones was the last coach hired, last coach brought in, and he did the best job. So maybe they don't need that whole calendar year. Maybe they just need the run up that they had starting with the draft or maybe the summer of preparation and then, kick off. So not the full calendar year. Maybe that's not necessary if you really put a lot of weight on what June Jones did.
It really just becomes a matter of fact that it's like, I'm going to bring this up every time now, I think, because what happened February 11th when Bob Stoops was hired? Did he start making phone calls? Did he start getting his coaching staff together?
I'm sure he called Hal Mummy immediately after.
And that's fine, but it's those types of things that you start to wonder what really matters with this date. So if on our map here where we say February 20th is around when you should have your first coach, if you're kicking off in February, or maybe it's middle of April, fine. But what do those coaches actually do right away is the big time question. And
I think they do. Those guys, they get to work. So I think that giving them a full year to build a coaching staff, and then plan for their off-season programs and all that, and drafts and scouting. I think giving a coach, if you want them invested, a full calendar year like that is a good idea. So that's the tough thing to do because signing coaches is a tough thing.
What coaches get a full calendar year?
I mean, anybody in, what do you mean, like the NFL?
No, I'm sorry. What new coach gets a full calendar year to put everything together?
Well, none in the NFL. That's true. They get about.
And I will say that they don't have to put a whole team together, but
they don't. Yeah,
they still feel like they get about 6 months, right?
Or even an entire staff a lot of the time. So,
That's true.
but they you're right. They only have about if you're getting hired in January, immediately after a Black Monday or whatever they call it, then you have about 8 months before you kick off to have everything ready in the NFL. And a lot of times it's very difficult to do. That's why guys don't immediately come in, and it's rare you see someone just kick a bunch of butt as a first-year coach taking over a team like that. So
John McVay.
In this case, it happens, but it's few and far between. This case, I think, is different, though, because it's total team building. This is completely from the ground up. So it's a little bit different. It's not quite apples and oranges, but it's almost that. So I don't know if I'll accept that as a comparison. Full calendar year, damn it. Give it to him.
I think the next one's the most important one to me, honestly, if you want this thing to succeed.
Ooh, the presidents. All right. Well, March 24th, our first president was hired. That was Heather Brooks Carrots of the LA Wildcats, in charge of everything on the business end of that franchise. And why Bryant thinks this is the most important, I think I'm guessing Bryant goes back to what we talked about at this point last week when we just brought this up. And this really lets you know if franchises are franchises or if they're owned by the league like they were. Is that what you're getting at? This will let us know when the team presidents are hired, if team presidents are actually hired by the league or if they're hired by an owner.
I think a lot can be said about how this is actually going to transpire as in terms of 2023 and the construction or build of the league in itself. So whether there's a vertical ownership, whether there's individual team ownerships, whether these team presidents, this is going to tell us how the XFL is planning to market and strategize themselves for 2023.
This tells you what kind of league the XFL is. Even more than the football, even more than anything else on this, how the presidents are hired and utilized will tell you what kind of league the XFL is, and that's very important because there's really two different paths that we are considering. Who knows what else they could come up with, but really there's the 2020 version, league owns everything, and there's the more traditional version where every team has its own owner. These presidents are going to be in charge either way of, keeping the organization organized in the different cities. But is that person working directly for the XFL, or are they working for an owner who is giving them marching orders and a budget? That is going to be huge to know. And that's something that I can't wait to know. But I don't think we can wait until March of next year or April of next year, Bryant, to know that. Can we? That would mean that less than a year out from kickoff, the XFL still trying to find owners for teams if they end up going with that model? If they're going to have owners of every franchise, damn it, don't be like the USFL where you're bringing on owners last minute. Those need to be shored up a calendar year, I would say, at least before. Because like the coaches, they're building entire staffs. They're building an entire franchise. Give them at least 1 year.
Who knows what actually is going to happen when it comes to this, and then that changes the perspective of how important this is or not in terms of the date. So can the XFL actually give themselves enough time to do an individual ownership for a team? I don't know, man. That's a lot of work. It's risky.
As exciting as I think about it, and as exciting as it is there's different owners all over the XFL. There are different personalities and what quirks will each team have. That's fun to think about, but that seems almost irresponsible to me at this point, because maybe if you push the kickoff back another year, that would be more comfortable. That's something you really need.
2024. Don't say that. Yeah. Don't you ever say that on this show again.
I didn't say
throw the kickoff another year. You said it. I didn't say the number though, because I don't want to speak it into existence, and that's why. Just because
the death knell for all these other failed leagues is finding ownership in some form or fashion, and finding 8 different or 10 different, however many teams you want, different owners. The CFL is struggling with that, and they've been around for over 100 years. It's a pain. So the vertically owned franchises, everything funnels up to the league, and the league owns everything. A model to start, at least, is the way to go still for me. It just seems like the best, most efficient way to kick off if you want to kick off and, really have everything controlled and in front of you and not have to worry about so many moving parts. So let's hope that president is announced as an employee of the XFL, not some rich person.
Something I mentioned last week was that can a league succeed if it has individual ownership? We haven't seen it. Can a league succeed if it has one owner? We haven't seen it. Can a league succeed if it has both? It has an owner that has a lot of money, and it has individual owners that are willing to fork over some of that money as well. It could happen. And if you have that, that could be part of the recipe of success for the XFL in 2023. It's kind of funny to think that we were supposed to kick off in 2022, and here we are in October, and we're questioning whether 2023 is enough time. So it's you can see how much work goes into all this, and what really needs to happen for this league to be a success. And maybe The Rock and Dany Garcia, I'm not going to say they bit off more than they could chew, but they're realizing that the work to get what they want might take a lot of work, and some of these dates just don't make any sense. Who knows? But it's a lot to think about.
It is. Like then you get to this next one, the television deal. Like, this is something that is, they publicly have talked about media rights as one of their main goals and one of the top, they're one of the main things they're focused on before anything else. And in building a league, like, that just seems like that comes later. But I feel like that actually might be bumped up here, and maybe that does a lot of good for the league. Maybe just having a TV deal announced before you have like anything planned in terms of franchises and cities. If you have that TV deal and you're able to sell a vague outline of what the league will be to television networks, that's all you really need to do at the end of the day, maybe.
It's possible. I mean, we've talked about it too, Alan. It's like, are we going to expect piecemealing, or are we going to want to do all this at one time? Like, that's another question, right? Is what are we actually going to be getting from the league? And to me, a television deal to go along with the teams that you're working with, to go along with how you're structured, is a pretty sweet thing, and shows that you're very structured in how you're doing this. Maybe that's why that deck, the Rock's deck, was so big. Because it had a lot more information than just, hey, we're working on teams right now, we're working on cities. It's like, hey, here are the cities, here are the TV partners, here are what we're doing. Boom, this is all together, so you understand what's going on.
So I'm not thinking the May-ish of next year television deal announcements out of the cards at all. I actually expect it to be earlier than that, Bryant. So if you ask me my heat check on that, I'm feeling good about those targeted dates on our roadmap here. I don't know about you.
I mean, I think a lot of these networks want to know what their schedules are going to be like well before a year in advance. They want to know whether or not they're going to, the NBC wants to know whether or not they were going to broadcast NHL on Sundays. They want to know that.
Yeah. Oh, and also we didn't even put it on the rundown, but it is sort of related. Fan Control Football just got a deal with.
If they can get a deal with Peacock,
NBC Universal will have games televised on Peacock.
Can buy NBC is pretty much what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. I want to go that far, but fan-controlled football, which is 7-on-7 football played on a 50-by-35 field.
It's indoor football. Just say indoor football.
Is getting put on a platform of, it's on one of the more obscure, I think, properties. I think it's NBC XLA. I think it's like the Latin, it's like a Spanish speaking NBC channel, but also on Peacock in addition. Such as them, Peacock is really working hard to get content, But yeah, like you said, if Fan Control Football is getting a deal like that, the XFL, if presented properly, is going to land on a pretty sweet platform whenever they really go for the gusto and actually target those negotiations. But I don't think that's happening quite yet. But maybe May, I feel like May makes sense that far out, because like Brian said, that the TV networks or streaming entities, they want to really know in advance for something like this. So the XFL is going to get, and they've already said like they always mention media rights and where the league will be viewed. In any interview you hear Dany Garcia, someone from Redbird, they always mention media rights. So that's something that's definitely top of their list. So
it gives legitimacy. So I think expect it to be to be early, to be big, to be awesome. Because if it's not, then it might take a while to actually get that information out, because they don't really want it to be out there.
Conversely, here's something that I know is probably not even on the list: summer showcases in June next year.
We mentioned maybe a competition show, something like that.
I have zero hope for a summer showcase, because we have zero scouting department or football operations right now.
So if the summer showcase isn't a thing, and you had to create some sort of television program that had to do with football players, what singing competition would you
emulate it after?
Emulate, yeah. Would it be the Masked Singer? Have somebody go out there in a chicken costume and basically run 40s and say like, do I want this person or not? And then they release the face mask, and it's Maurice Claret.
Yeah, it's not Maurice Claret. He's like, he looks like he's got a real dad bod. Real dad bod doing motivational speaking these days. I think he's just like.
Or is it like The Voice
last week? The Voice, no. I don't. Why can't we see the players? Why do you want us to not see what they look like? You want them to be masked in costumes?
I don't know. Okay, do you want them to be in a private room and do
American Idol? Then, because then you're at least seeing them and seeing everything they got, the raw talent. That's what you want when you're scouting. That's part of scouting, is seeing everything you could possibly see.
Show us the
from
best
the talent
you got. Show us the best. Show us the best. Show us your.
Titan Games is probably what you really the Rock would, really make it out to be like if it was televised. Or I don't know, American Gladiators is coming back. Maybe they'll integrate it with the XFL. We'll see.
An Okie drill competition.
The draft getting announced next August. What do you feel about that? Think that'll be it? That'll be something so next August on this show, you think we'll be saying, all right, they said the draft is coming up. It's this day. What are we doing for the draft? What are our plans? Do you think we'll be planning for the draft by next summer?
As the only two people to ever cover an XFL draft in the history of mankind in the universe, and probably any other universe that exists outside of this one, I will say that, to me, you need to lock in those players. A lot of the players that were drafted didn't even make it to the training camp or even mini camp for that. They got signed by an NFL team, things like that. So I'm okay with the draft being announced in next August or whenever, but if you're not going to sign up, if you're not going to lock down your players, then the draft kind of becomes a moot point.
And announcing the date of the draft and having the draft, two different things kind of, but really when it's all said and done, that August to October of next year, XFL draft needs to be the focal point if we're kicking off February of 2023. I think that timeline totally made sense the first go around. How I feel about it now is, I guess 50-50, maybe 45-55, Brian, because there really is no football operations personnel at the XFL at all.
But you can see why the date makes sense. Like, why did August make sense for the XFL? Can you answer that for me?
To say our draft is in October?
Yeah.
To give them time to scout.
No, for the players who are going to get cut, have
for
hope
the NFL as well. Yes,
for the XFL, right? That's why that date makes a lot of sense, right? The players, oh my God, I'm going to get cut. Oh, but there's the XFL, I can go play next year. And so the date makes sense why you announce it then.
Actually, that doesn't make sense to me. Wouldn't you want to tell players before they even go into NFL camps, like before the summer, hey,
Why?
the XFL draft is in October, so if you're going to an NFL camp and you don't make it, don't worry, make plans. Like telling them in the middle of camp is different. That gives players less time to prepare. So I like the idea of bumping.
Should we just
up.
tell them now then?
Yeah, if you can. Yeah, that would be great. You got then. I mean, how great are guys going to look when they get to your scouting events and be prepared? Guys are going to be out training right now. I'm all for it.
Oh man, you're looking ripped. What are you training for? NFL camp? Nah, man, the XFL draft.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Giving people time to prepare themselves, whether it's potential franchise owners, presidents, coaches, players. Give them as much time as you possibly can.
I think, to me, I think that my point through all these dates as we're finishing up here with a couple more is the dates don't matter. It's the preparation that matters. So if you announce this in August that it's going to take place in October, you better be ready for it in October. If you announce this in July that you already know that you're going to be ready for it in October, then announce it in July. Why are you waiting until August? If you're not ready in October, then don't announce it that you're going to be ready in some certain date. Like that's the thing I think I'm going with, is that it's all about the timing and execution. Don't announce something just for the sake of announcing it. Have a plan for it to be announced. If you're announcing it in June, to Alan's point, announce it before players even get there so they know that they have something to stay with in case they get cut. Perfect. Awesome.
I say announce it as early as you can responsibly announce something and back it up and deliver on what you're announcing.
Exactly. 100%. You also can't wait too long past October because a lot of those players are not going to just sit around and not do anything for that long. So there's that too. So, and remember, those players didn't start getting paid until minicamp, which was in December. So they got drafted in October, didn't get paid until December.
All right, so we kind of covered all the draft markers there, Bryant. Let's go to the last two here. The rules for 2020 were announced a month before kickoff. What do you feel on that? The rules and how they're, I guess, formally announced, if they are. They have not. The Redbird, Dany Garcia, The Rock, anybody affiliated with the XFL currently hasn't said word one about XFL 2020 rules being incorporated in 2023 at all. So I have no clue. Each day that goes by, I feel more confident that they're just going to adopt the same rule book because, maybe that's like last on their list and really they never talk about it.
The last one that you can actually say you feel comfortable about, because the XFL did it a month before. So why can't they change the entire rule book and then bring it on a month before like the XFL 2020 did?
Because they're not doing the legwork that they did. They were tweaking and really doing a lot of legwork to not have any of the experimental camps and the training and scouting events that they had, like with the spring league, to test things out. If they're just announcing a new rule book a month out without doing any of that, just would seem kind of irresponsible to me. So I just feel like there's not the focus on football with this new ownership like there was. So I feel like the rule book has to be, that just is a tip to me, the rule book is being respected, at least for the most part. And I will expect a rule book announcement maybe a month out. I don't know that really. I have no feeling on that, but I do feel like more and more each day that the rule book is coming back, baby. Maybe that's just because I'm a glass half full kind of person.
Are you? Since when?
Forever.
In 100 years?
Most positive, most positive guy you know. Come on.
No, that's definitely Jake.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He's the most positive man I know. I mean,
For
he's
sure.
always on the up and up. With
Everyone's favorite positive beam of light from XFL show podcast lore. For sure.
Oh man! Look, the rules were kind of, they were, I don't want to say tinkered with. They were kind of teased, right, way before they actually were made official, and they were made. Well, I mean, we could say that they were made official on this day, but we knew about them well before this.
Yes. Yeah, right? There was all kinds of, even from the league itself. What I loved about it too was they would talk on like radio shows and on podcasts and on this show. You'd have someone say, "Well, maybe we do this with a rule. Maybe we're working on it right now to see if that actually works. Maybe we go with 1 foot in bounds, or maybe 2. We are liking 1 right now, but we'll tell you when we officially announce it." Like, they gave you a glimpse into their thought process, whereas now they're not giving us, because I don't think there is a thought process on. I think they're going to go with the rule book, because it's a whole nother headache for them too.
That's the biggest thing to me, is that it's an unnecessary headache.
Unless there's something that people are telling them is egregious in there and they need to change, why would new ownership mess with the rule book? Other than, I don't know, ego or something they personally don't like from it. Because in all honesty, it was the best thing going for the XFL in 2020, because it was the most intriguing and interesting part of the league, because it was new, it was innovative, and it was proven to be pretty damn fun. So I'm confident. I'm getting confident that we're going to keep it. I'm not just blowing smoke and trying to convince myself. I really do, because the lack of football people currently just makes you feel like they're going to just plug people in to kind of take over what was being done in that realm of the league.
It's like us not taking advantage of Pretty Easy podcasts, right?
Yeah,
it's like, hey, it's something we don't have to worry about. Yeah. Why wouldn't we take advantage of that?
Yeah, what am I gonna just go edit this whole damn show myself? Oh wait,
of course not.
Yeah,
well, no, Pretty Easy podcasts will do that, and they'll bill us for it.
I'll put my shirt on. I'll put my Pretty Easy podcast shirt on, and then I do it.
Exactly, it's totally different. Really, whatever. I'm with you, Alan. I think it's something that they don't have to worry about. It didn't show that it failed, so I think you move forward with it. I guess what I'm saying is I cannot find good enough reasons to not move forward with it.
Same.
And I can find plenty of reasons to move forward with it.
Are you as confident, or not confident, but optimistic for it as I am?
That's going to stick?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's fair to say, hey, yeah, this is going to stay here, and this is going to be the way it goes moving forward.
All right, last one then. The January training camp hub in whatever city. It was in Houston in 2020. Do you think we get that same kind of deal, a 1 month out from kickoff, sort of de facto preseason, where all the teams are in the same place, training and tweaking their football form before kickoff?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to. The more and more I think about it, I think you have to do something like this, because these teams need reps. They need to play against each other. They need to practice with one another.
That's true. But one difference that I could see happening is, I could see if TV plays a factor, preseason could maybe be something that is offered from the XFL in 2023.
Yeah, but you don't want the first time these teams play against each other to be on television, to even practice. Like,
what if it's only streamed on Peacock or some other service instead of on like the formal TV partner? What if they get ESPN and it's only watch the preseason on ESPN Plus? Would you be upset at that?
No, I mean, it's preseason. We're talking about practice. I mean, it's the reality of the situation there too. So, I think it just makes sense financially. Now, again, this goes back to another conversation we've had: is what are the financial goals of this team, of this ownership group? Do they want to make money the first season, or they want to make this as big as possible for the future? That's the goal, right? the XFL can tell The Rock, obviously you're going to have a budget no matter what you're trying to do. But is that budget for you to be grandiose, or is that budget for you to get through the first season and hopefully have a second one?
Yeah, I'm confident either way. Something's going to be going down with all these teams on football fields 1 month before they actually kick off, because otherwise the football would suck. So they're going to have to do it. Training camp probably is the most cost efficient. We'll see what kind of TV can play a big factor, though. Keep an eye on that. I can see preseason being offered in some way if the TV partners want it, but that's, again, a domino that has to fall before the training camp domino. If I'm betting, I would bet on the hub city behind closed doors type deal. But when you're talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Dany Garcia, they do it big, and they like to capitalize on things. So maybe putting the football out there and not worrying so much about how quality the game is with preseason games. Maybe that there's not a huge risk there, because it's just more eyeballs and more content, which I think they're really going to be going for a lot more content from the league.
I know you're okay with that. I know you're okay with that for sure.
I mean, look what time I'm up right now. I'm ready to create and consume all the time.
Sure. Well, either way, I think it's going to be a great road, and check this map out. It's on our Twitter. It's pinned there for you to take a look at it and really kind of temper your expectations with what's actually happening. Maybe you want these dates to be a little different. Who knows how important some of these dates really are to kick off. And I guarantee you that most of, maybe not any of this, was in that Rocks deck.
I mean, that deck definitely had some other pages in it that were, probably stuff we're not even talking about. I mean, there's going to be stuff that is announced that we can't fathom, that they're mulling around, that they're going to really try to put a stamp on. This is a new XFL, the new ownership, and they're going to make it their own, of course.
America's Got Talent. Golden Buzzard moments.
It's not going to be a reality. I mean, maybe there'll be a reality show affiliated with the league, but I don't think you're not going to base your scouting on a reality show. I would hope not.
No, but some of it can be.
That's so 2000 late. They don't even do that anymore. You want the players to actually be good.
First of all, your 2000 late properly. Is so 2000 late.
No one says that anymore?
No one says that anymore.
I thought I saw it on a TikTok. Are we on TikTok yet?
No, that's 2000 late as well.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, who knows what's actually going to happen? I think there's a lot of ideas swirling, and I guarantee you that if a singing show competition is copied, it's because somebody is listening to this show right now.
You know, I heard those guys talk about it. We're going to do the Gong Show, XFL style. Talk about 1970 late reference right there.
What about go ahead. Hunger Games, maybe?
May the odds forever be in your favor as you do the end of your show gimmick here.
It's like when you break a pool stick in The Dark Knight and the Joker just drops it in the middle. It's like, we got room for one of you guys. And then just let them do their thing. Lots of ideas, lots of things that we're going to be speculating on. Who knows what's actually going to happen. But either way, we are going to be here for you every single Sunday right here on your favorite podcast app. That's Apple, Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you give us that 5-star review and tell your friends about us. If you got a question, comment, or a topic you want us to cover, well, then call or text the XFL Fan Line 724-565-4XFL. Remember, standard text messaging rates do apply. Also, follow us on all social media platforms at XFL Show, Instagram, Twitter, if Instagram's still working, Facebook, if it's still working, Alan's favorite, and definitely TikTok one day. Or if you want to come and say hi or hello to me and Alan, well, then subscribe and watch us on YouTube at xfl.show, the official website of This Is the XFL Show. And don't forget about sponsors, Pretty Easy Podcast. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com and get started today, because they make podcasting pretty easy.
The only thing I wish they could do is bring me coffee in the middle of the show. The good thing is we had a lot to get to, and so my brain was working the whole time, but like now we're hitting this finish line. Whoa, Nelly. late night recordings to get these shows out still for everybody.
It's a good
Brian.
thing that the baby was very cooperative. No one walked in on the show. We didn't have to do 100 takes at the very beginning of the show.
No, we did not.
This one was probably the smoothest ever recording that we had. So you can sit back, enjoy our fantasy football doubleheaders. Mind you, I think our trade finally went through.
Wait, our trade just went through?
I think our trade went through as well. So
is it official?
We can set our lineups.
Check it.
It is official. I'm pretty sure it's official.
No one vetoed it? Can you give them insight on this? People tried to veto a Calvin Ridley for Cordero Patterson trade. Totally fair trade. Falcon for Falcon. Ojo por ojo. I mean, why not? Someone tried to veto that? See, that's why there are just people out there that just want to obstruct. No one's obstructing us, though, on this road to 2023. Bryant, we are going at it, whether it's 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the morning, 3 in the morning, East Coast time zone, West Coast time zone, Hawaii,
Italian.
Europe. Damn it, we're giving you shows. And it's going to be really interesting each and every week because 1 week XFL ownership breaks the internet. Next week, maybe they make a big announcement about something crazy for 2023. Either way, we're here for it. And we thank you for being here for it as well. We will be back next week. For Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL show. Remember, they're listening.